Hey, you guys and gals. I'm going to do Threefold, Section 4, Part 2, and see where we go from there. Right. After they woke up and had their breakfast, they continued toward Yavera. What do you know about Yavera? Hugo asked Junyo, excited about entering this new city. He looked forward to staying in Yavera, experiencing its daily life and trying its cuisine, because they didn't get a chance to stay in Evergarden. Only a little, Junyo said slowly. Akura, the rifle, his father, and Yoshino were on Junyo's mind. Either that, or he was struggling with the decision to talk to him. Hugo wanted to believe the former. I stayed there when I was a kid, Junyo said. Akura and I did. Hugo glanced at Guinness, and his eyes seemed to express surprise. Hugo guessed Junyo talking about himself again shocked Guinness. My mother, father, and their friend would visit Yavera every summer. It was my father's hometown. Junyo paused. No, he shook his head. I used to live there. Hugo heard Junyo say this under his breath, but he didn't ask about it. Junyo sounded uncertain, which wasn't like him. Was that your father's rifle? He decided to change the subject. Yes and no, Junyo said. He and my grandfather helped build it. Building Energous firearms was a family business. Energous firearms, Hugo said. I've heard of them, but I don't remember much about them. I took Phison energy and Energous weaponry in my university, Guinness spoke up. I fought people trained to use them too. Energous weaponry allows Energies to channel an element that's not their own. It has something to do with chemistry, atoms, combustions, and changing elements. Science and soul energy, Hugo said. Junyo nodded, an action only he noticed. Now I remember. Some also allow you to channel your own element. Junyo, your handgun is one. Junyo nodded again. I never thought I would see this firearm again. I have not thought about my father in more than a decade. Why? Hugo asked. Did you hate him? No, Junyo said. He just never crossed my mind. He paused. I had Takashi. I remember Takashi. My father never dawned on me until I saw this rifle. That was strange. Was something like that even possible? Yes, it was. The rifle jogged his memory. But why had he forgotten his father in the first place, especially if he hadn't hated him? That was the strange part. It nagged at him. You think Akura brought you back here to meet him? No, Junyo said, but he's involved with this somehow. He's not involved with our situation. He's involved with the truth about your family. Hugo wanted to say and thought Junyo wanted to say the same. Hey, Guinness grabbed their attention. Hey, I got something to say about yesterday. Hugo stopped, but Junyo continued. Junyo. Junyo stopped and turned toward them. And no, Guinness said, it's not an apology. What is it? Hugo asked. He definitely didn't expect any sort of apology. He actually didn't expect to hear much from him until they reached Lunaria. This was a pleasant surprise. When I ran into you two, Guinness started, looking directly at them, my behavior, it was out of line. I was out of line. To make up for it, when we get into town, I'll buy us a round of drinks. Sounds like an apology. Hugo smiled to himself. Wipe that smile off your face, Guinness said. It's not an apology. Hugo tried to hide a smile but failed and shrugged. Drinks? Junyo said. Hugo almost didn't believe the hint of interest he heard in Junyo's voice. I was out of line, Junyo said. He didn't look directly at Guinness. He paused a second before he rocked his head back side to side. You buy me a drink? He gave Guinness his full attention. I will return the favor. Dinner will be on me, Hugo said. I don't drink. Junyo and Guinness turned and stared at him in disbelief. Why not? Guinness said. Afraid they'll kick you out of Boy Scouts? Hugo laughed. Guinness shook his head. No, Hugo said. I've seen what liquor does to people. I'd rather stay sober with my wits and all about me. You're dull as dirt, Guinness said. Hugo shrugged. I'm surprised you drink, Junyo. I didn't think you'd enjoy loss of control. I enjoy a good drink, Junyo said, and I hold my liquor well. You think you can hold your liquor? Guinness said. I've never met a man I couldn't drink under the table. How about a drinking contest? As long as the loser pays for all the drinks, Junyo said. You got yourself a deal, Guinness said. Hugo felt Guinness wanted to beat Junyo at something, and Junyo decided to play along. On the other hand, they sounded genuine, and this conversation made him think this was a sign of mending fences. All right, that was part 2. I'm just going to go ahead and read part 3 too. So stay tuned. As they neared Yavera, Junyo and Guinness had discussed liquor for the challenge. Guinness turned down Junyo's whiskey, and Junyo turned down Guinness's good old-fashioned beer. They decided to try something new they neither had ever had. They arrived at Yavera near dusk. Entering Yavera, it started. Not many people were out, but the ones who were had their eyes on the 3 strangers, especially him. Solaresians usually didn't frequent Lunastra for this reason, but he didn't mind. He found Lunastra fascinating, which is why he had studied the place, the culture of its people, and the language while in school. People watched him for one reason or another. If it wasn't because of his background, it was because of his abilities. Whether it was for one or both reasons, he usually didn't let it bother him. They started their search for an inn, but they weren't having much luck. Yavera was a large town. I thought you knew this place, Guinness said. You don't know where an inn is? A lot has changed from what I remember of the place, Junyo said. He said this more to himself than to Guinness. Yavera has grown, Hugo said. Many people travel here to get away from the big cities. Its easygoing nature and the awesome stuff they sell on the bazaar. I've read it's something of an information highway as well. They were walking and talking when an elderly man who suspiciously eyed Hugo stopped Junyo. I can see you're not from around here, the elder man said to Junyo in Lunastran. I'm something of a guide in these parts. I'm Old Man Sanji. Where are you headed? Hugo quickly translated it in his head. To the nearest inn, sir, Junyo said in his native tongue. What's a Solaresian doing here? Sanji asked. His voice went from jovial and inviting to low and harsh. He is with me, Junyo said in his native tongue, with a hard tone to his voice. From the look of shock on Sanji's face, Hugo believed he hadn't expected that response. Make sure he doesn't stick around too long, Sanji said before he gave him directions. His kind isn't wanted here. Junyo turned to walk away from him without any kind of response except a quick look of contempt. Guinness stared at Sanji, a look of disgust on his face, and was about to tell him about himself, but Junyo grabbed his arm and dragged him away. We are not here to cause trouble or to draw attention to ourselves, Junyo said to him in Gaterish. Sanji watched them. Hugo drew his attention when he realized Hugo still stood by him. Thank you, he said in Lunastran. We appreciate the assistance, sir. Sanji's eyes bore into him. Hugo noticed Junyo glance back at him as he caught up with him and Guinness. You shouldn't have thanked him, Guinness said. Hugo shrugged. He did help us out. You know Lunastran? He asked Guinness, more interested in talking about something else. And why do so many people here speak Gaterish? He posed his second question to Junyo. Hugo remembered the reason many people in Lunastra spoke Gaterish so well. Lunastrans had to learn 2 languages during school. Gaterish was a requirement. Australians had to do the same, Guinness told him. He learned Solarezli while in college to be able to communicate with anyone. Hugo had chosen to learn Lunastran when he was in school and continued with it in college, glad with the opportunity. He knew 3 languages because he learned 2 of them at home, Solarezli and Gaterish. Lunastra does a lot of business with Gatera, Junyo said. Right, Hugo said. Thinking about it, Gatera was the only continent on good terms with the other continents, which was surprising considering it was the only continent that embraced people from all walks of life, regardless of place of origin, ability, or lack thereof. Guinness, wanting to get the drinking started, hurried them along. They followed the directions and found the inn lively. To Guinness and Junyo's delight, the place contained a tavern. Before you two run off, Hugo said as they stood inside, we should get a room first. He felt eyes on him. He looked around and saw a number of patrons watching him. He heard them when they began to talk in whispers. Junyo nodded. Hugo noticed the young Lunastran woman sitting at the counter. She reminded him of Leiko. Seeing him made Hugo nervous. Could the same thing happen again? She was beautiful. She had shoulder-length black hair, which a red hair clip kept from shielding her face, and sharp, dark brown eyes. She looked about their age, but the expression on her face made her seem older, more mature. Guinness was quick to introduce himself, which put a small smile on Hugo's face. Evening. He gave her a nod. I'm Guinness. I wondered if you might have 3 rooms available. She looked at him, and he barely seemed to register for her. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Yavera. I'm Atsuko, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. I hope so, Guinness said. Can you get us those 3 rooms? We should share a room, Hugo said. We can split the cost. If you share one of our larger rooms, Atsuko said, your bill will be cheaper. She read over the paperwork in front of her before she looked at them. Junyo caught her attention, and she eyed him for a moment before focusing on Guinness. We encourage groups to stay together, to save rooms for other guests. I hope you can understand. That's all right, Guinness said and turned toward Junyo and Hugo. Although, I'm warning you two now, I snore loudly. We will live, Junyo said. You can't be any worse than what I've heard in the past, Hugo said. He recalled Shulan's snoring, which sounded like a beluga whale. As Atsuko pulled a form from behind the desk and sifted through paperwork, he rested his eyes on her. He wondered why Junyo had drawn her gaze. She had taken a liking to him, but he didn't seem to notice. Junyo's back was to them. He appeared to be scoping out the tavern's patrons. How long do you plan on staying? Atsuko asked. We're not exactly sure yet, Hugo said. Can we pay as we go? Certainly, Atsuko said. For one night, your total comes to 150 rails. 50 rails each should be sufficient. Guinness reached into his back pocket and pulled out a wallet full of rails. I'll take care of it, he said this without turning back to the two of them. When you get off work, come find me in the tavern, he said to her as he paid. I'll buy you a drink. If I drank and fell for good looks and smooth words, I'd be with you in a heartbeat. Luckily, I don't. Hugo laughed. Junyo chuckled. Letting your walls down a bit, Hugo thought after hearing Junyo's quiet laugh. Thanks for the room and the laugh, Hugo said. Atsuko grabbed 3 sets of keys from the board behind her and gave him a set. You'll stay in room 3, suite A. She tossed the second set to Junyo. It'll be on the 3rd floor to your right. She gave Guinness his set. You're a beautiful woman, Guinness said. I meant you no disrespect. I apologize if I came off that way. I only wanted to spend time with you to get to know you, the intelligent woman you seem to be. He bowed to her. This took Atsuko off guard. It took Hugo off guard, and he noticed it did the same with Junyo. For a moment, Guinness appeared serious and a little hurt by the fact that he might have insulted Atsuko. The moment came, the moment went. Guinness let the hurt pass from his face so fast Hugo thought he might have imagined it. At least I know you think I look good, Guinness said. With a smile and a nod, he headed for the tavern, but Hugo knew he hadn't. He noticed Atsuko reveal a brief smile after Guinness left. Hurry up, Junyo, Guinness said overly loud. We don't have all night. Hugo watched Junyo follow after Guinness. He agreed they needed to hurry. They had work to do, finding out why they had been sent to Yavera. However, he would have dinner first. He turned back to Atsuko to ask her a question and noticed her watching after Junyo. She appeared to be admiring his rifle. Do you know him? Junyo? Atsuko said. No. I thought he looked familiar. He's probably been through here once or twice. He has, Hugo said. He travels a lot. Used to come here as a kid, too. Thanks again. He gave her a slight wave. She smiled in return. No problem. Guinness hopped on a stool when he found a seat. Junyo slid on a stool to his left. Hugo walked into the tavern and ignored the stares and blocked out whispers. When he walked up beside Guinness to his right, the bartender stopped what he was doing to give him a once-over. Got anything with a kick? Guinness asked the bartender, drawing his attention and apparently not amused by his behavior. I got something called the Reaper. If you want to try that, the bartender said. It's basically death in a bottle. Guinness and Junyo glanced at each other. They shared a look Hugo could only describe as half crazed. We'll take one each and keep them coming, Guinness said. Don't you want to know what's in it? The bartender asked. No, Guinness said. We'll figure it out as we go. Hugo knew what was in it. Shulan worked as a bartender during their school years, and she was good at what she did. She practiced a lot at parties. Reaper was a combination of dark whiskey, gin, and black tequila. According to her, the Reaper was only for hard drinkers. Don't you two want to drop your stuff off in the room? Hugo asked. Gear never leaves my side, Guinness said. Junyo agreed. I'm starving, Hugo said. I'm going to eat. Good luck and let the best man win. Hugo sat at a nearby table as the bartender set down 2 glass bottles with black and brownish liquid inside of it. Music was going with the smell of food in the air. Many people were enjoying themselves. Hugo sat at a nearby table and waited for a waitress as Guinness announced round 1. After a short wait, Hugo ordered himself a meal. All right, those are the 2 chapters I'm going to be reading today. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep them coming. I'll keep them coming. You keep coming. I'll appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.